All right, so I'm back in ZBrush and I am going to revert to a mesh I had before I applied contrast. It was the last modification I made, so it's probably this one. And if I duplicate and bring it out, I can make a comparison with. So this is what it was if I go solo, and this was the intensification of it. And I thought that would be necessary with the contrast node, but I think it pushed the mesh a little too far with that intensity thing. So I am going to go back to this mesh. I think this is good enough. And one thing that I think didn't come out too well is the interdigitating serratus. So I'm going to push them just slightly. So I have some mounds here on the side showing up a bit more. And I'll push these two, these obliques. All right, so I think this is enough of an edit. And like I said, this mound here, I'll paint out if it presents a problem. I'll paint out with component tags. So I'm going to send this mesh back to Maya and set up a connection with this new mesh. All right, so I have the new one in position. I'm going to hide the old one and set up this new connection. Deform, sculpt, same settings, go create. And that looks a lot better. I do save a copy of my file before I make any connections. That's how I'm able to revert, right, very easily. All right, so I'm going to give this one the same treatment. I'm going to go down in a component level and scale it down uniformly. And so it's no longer poking through. And then I will move it up so it's in the correct location. Make sure that these first ones are on that Greek arch. All right, now hide this and start adjusting these values. Okay, so that's a lot better, not too bad with the intensity. And I think I'm just gonna have to let go of this interdigitating serratus. It's there in some small capacity, but I'm not going to go above and beyond to make it show too much. All right, so that's a good abdominal impression. Let's see what a yeah, not bad at all. All right, so that's really, really good. I like this. All right, so the abdominals are also working now. All right, so let me turn off their envelope and move back to the rib cage, and let's get started on this rib cage work. With this rib cage, one of the first things I want to do is set this main rig into the position that I'm expecting to see this impression happen. So I'm going to grab this chest control and I'm just going to rotate backward to what would be a maximum, or what I feel like is a maximum inhalation. I definitely don't want it in the back here, so here it will be painted out. Let me pick a reasonable number, minus 19. Sorry, a whole number. I just want a whole number over there that I can remember. And this is what we're getting in the way of a rib cage. That is a little intense. Now that I see it with her rotated backwards, so that is definitely going to have to come down. Yeah, I don't want this super bulged out look. I think it looked good over there, but now that I see it in the pose it's supposed to be in, it's definitely way too much. So I'm going to come over here and crank this down. What I'm looking for really here is these initial default values that I'm going to count on. So I'll go 0.3, 0.2. This particular effect is going to work in conjunction with the stomach vacuum. I think I might have to adjust this one too in the x-axis. It's too thin, and I think I also might have made a slight mistake with the sculpting, which I do think I can repair here. So I'm going to make sure it imprints on the side, which is important. But a lot of what's happening here, I do have to blend it out really well. All this top here, I don't think I'm going to need. So I think I should probably start my painting process. Go look on the final mesh to see what it's looking like. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to paint this influence out. And I also do have some of that protrusion because there is a, the flip setting is making for a not so good protrusion over here. I'm actually going to fix this one with a soft selection here. Let me see if I can mirror. That's not going to be easy. Not at the position it's at right now. Let me try World X. Yeah, World X would definitely not work. The only thing that would have worked would have been Object X. So let me grab this and just push it in a bit. Okay, until it's no longer protruding and producing that flip effect. I want to make sure that these changes are on a component level because I want to leave the transforms of this mesh 0 for the sliding I'm about to do. I think that for this effect, it's going to rely heavily on the vacuum to really sell. But yeah, it doesn't look bad. I think it's time to paint out some of this stuff. All right, let me go on a component level and see what I can do with a fall off to paint out the influence of this thing, or at least paint in the influence. Probably start with a 0 and paint in the influence. All right, so as I showcased in that video, the painting is not going to happen on the sculpt deformer because it doesn't support fall off nodes and component tags. So the painting is going to happen here. So I'm going to search for these blend shape nodes that I've created. So let me search for the first one. And I'm looking for BSHP ribcage right there. And I'm going to add a fall off node. So I'm going to right click and assign a component fall off. And then I'm going to right click again and go paint component fall off. And double click on the settings. And actually glaze over it with a replace of 0.5. And see if I can just tone this down. Just want to take it away from this. Make sure it transitions well at this point because it's just too aggressive underneath the breast tissue. It really should blend in there. There's a lot of muscle and tissue over it. And I really don't want this upper area protruding out like that. Matter of fact, I don't even want the manubrium here being this aggressive. So I'm going to tone down the impression on the manubrium. And then back here, I need significantly less. So I'm going to go with a 0.25 and just really get it away from this back side. Try broader brush stroke just to get it away. And on the side here, I'm going to be a little bit more careful and go with a 0.5 again. And I like the fact that there'll be a little asymmetry with the way it looks. I do feel like I might have gotten the gesture a little bit wrong. Let me see what it looks like on the final piece. Yeah, I think on the side here, I might have to even crank it down a little bit more. So I'm going to go with a 0.3 and really try to tone it down here. It looks a little crazy on those sides. Go back to this 0.5 application. Yeah, I think one thing I should have considered was putting in significantly more ridges in there, but it might have been a waste of time because I do not really have that much geometry to show the level of detail that I'm expecting. I'm going to have to settle with this. And I might have said something about I would be touching this up a little bit just to get some additional detail with an in-context blend shape, because this is going to have to work in conjunction with an in-context blend shape to get the vacuum effect. So I think I'm going to start working on that because I know the gesture is correct because of how things are supposed to be flowing. I know it's flowing correctly on the main mesh, but somehow when I look here, I feel like I'm slightly wrong, but I might be all in my head. I think I'll take what I have. This should be good enough. And I think it's now time to play with the vacuum effect.